Neat Games. Hi, I'm Nick. I'm a full-time English teacher here in Korea, and I make games as a hobby. This is my Metroidvania game, YesterSol. It has a simple spear mechanic where you can throw it and magically recall it. Also, it can be a platform. And finally, the Steam page is live. Let me know how I can improve it. It is still a work in progress. And here is the first simple trailer. Let's check it out. Please pause the video and be one of the first to wishlist my game. Did you go? I'll wait. Thanks, and welcome back. Making the Steam page took a bit of time, because I wanted it to look pretty good from the start. But it was much easier this time compared to when I did it for Super Neatcat. I think it's because I've done it before, so I kinda knew what to expect. I made all the different required images and the screenshots. They must be the exact size they ask for, and then you just drag them in and it auto-populates. I put some GIFs in the description. They say to show your game in a GIF, so I showed the key spear mechanic. Okay, so for this video I want to talk about how I designed the look of my game. So let's talk about the art style and how I came up with it. Basically, my art goal was keep it simple, but also have it look good. So how did I achieve this? Well, I realized there were three main pillars I wanted to follow. The first is pretty obvious. Of course I want it to be good looking. And this time, I didn't want to do low resolution pixel art. I wanted it to look a bit more crisp and modern and maybe more unique. But I think one influence might be is my students always say pixel art looks old. So I went for this unorthodox 64 by 64 pixel style. I think it looks a lot more crisp, and also it still looks a bit more modern, but it still has a slight retro feel. Next, I needed an eye-catching color palette. So I went with complementary colors and also pastels for the backgrounds. And finally, I wanted it to feel atmospheric, have lots of particles, fog in the background, wind, etc. Anything I could do to make the world feel more alive. And the second pillar. This one might be the most important. Basically, I want the art to be easy to do. But also, I want it to still look professional. I work full-time and do various side work as well, so I need an art style I can do realistically in my free time. So, I decided to do simple solid shapes, especially for the background art, and also slightly more details on the player's layer. I wanted a simple character, like the knight in Hollow Knight. He has low details, but he's still very memorable. I'm always amazed how the art of Hollow Knight is so inspirational. There is so much fan art, and it's posted every day. I think it's due to the simplicity in the character design, and people can easily grasp it and mimic it. And that's why I wanted to make Corin, my main character, fairly simple and easy to understand. And another method to make a game look more professional is to have a lot of depth. And to do this, I've made a ton of parallax layers. And it's actually quite easy for me to do. Now the third pillar. And this one basically is, I wanted it to look unique. And also nothing like Hollow Knight especially. I decided that I wanted no solid black outlines. Most games do this. And also I think this will avoid any Hollow Knight clone hate. Now, black lines are usually a good idea. They help make the characters stand out from the environment. But I still don't want to use them because I like the softer feel to the art it brings without them. So a difficult aspect of this is making things stand out without the black lines. I will try to rely on the color palettes and contrast for that. Another thing I want to avoid is no blurring on the parallax layers. I noticed as soon as you do this, you get called a Hollow Knight clone. But I think because my backgrounds are simple shapes and pastel, I don't think I'll need it, but I might play around with it still. And to make the color palette unique, I went with yellow versus purple. And I haven't seen too many main characters with a yellowish color theme, and I think the purple clashes really well with it. Another thing I'm doing is 100% original art. I'm doing this so I can avoid asset flip comments. I got so many on Super Neatcat, even though it was my first learning game and I was just practicing. So this time I just want to avoid it completely. And this art style is fairly unique, so I think I have to do it all myself anyways. So after considering all of these points and ideas, I came to this conclusion. I think it looks pretty good, plus unique, and I can do it fairly quickly. I needed to have a reusable workflow, so I made these prefabs. They're basically the background parallax box, and I can move it around or add extra art easily. Also, it contains the camera and all the particles. And because there are a ton of parallax layers, this makes the simple background art look way better. I use these simple tile maps with multiple layers, and I recolor them for each zone. So I've been able to make levels fairly quick. The enemies. They are gooey and simple, and always have a mosquito-like head. I was not satisfied with the first iteration, so I changed them to this. Let me know if you have any other suggestions to make them look better. Now I think they look more clean and simple. Also, they're easier to see in combat. Plus, the animations are better all around. So this is how I came to this art style, and some of the rules I adhere to. Now for the things I've added since the last devlog. For Corin, I changed the goggles to a headband. I know I made a big deal about the goggles in the last video, but I think the headband is better. It has his tribe symbol, which is a little sun, and he is not an engineer, and desert people with goggles is kind of a common trope. And I originally wanted the symbol to be on his hoodie, but it looked too cluttered, but now it looks good on the headband. So now I think this is his final look for sure. There is a currency system now, and also it saves whenever you break the node. And here are the mining nodes, and the currency just flies to the player, so no need to walk over and grab it. There's a key and gate system now, so if the player has collected the key, it saves, and if the player walks up to the door, it opens up. a shop system that saves the purchases. Currently, there are only keys for the west and east area doors. 2 new enemies. There's an upgraded, stronger melee fighter. He moves faster and stabs quicker. And there's a ranged fighter that spits at the player. Better game juice with screen shake. It does random vertical, horizontal, and rotational movement. The player seed mode now has growing and shrinking effects. Moving platforms. Even the spear can stick to these. It was extremely hard making the spear work with the platform. I had to do all sorts of crazy code to flip the spear to have it instantiate correctly. I can't even remember how I made it work, but I'm happy it works. I fixed a bug that if you got hit right before falling off of the map, you missed the death collider and you just fell forever. Now that should not happen. I added some fog to the cave areas to make it more atmospheric. There's a new hazard, thrusting spears that you have to dash through quickly. There's no way to walk through these, so these are kind of a gated hazard. There are 2 new zones. A rainy redwood forest, I really love this color palette, and an underground lake zone, and I really like this one too. Both zones have rain particles and different ambient sounds. Here are the first NPCs, the Moon Wardens. There are only a few survivors of the city. I think I will have a Hollow Knight-like side quest to find and save them throughout the world. And when you do, they will appear here more and more. And something I finally got working was that the spear does damage when being recalled now. That was one of the biggest requests I got from all the feedback. I had to add a damage cooldown to the enemy so they can't take multiple hits from the spear spinning when it returns. Something I wasn't sure if I ever wanted to add, but a melee attack. This was requested quite a bit, especially on Reddit whenever I posted about my game. At first I didn't want to have one, but I actually added this so I can have bosses and enemies and currency nodes above the player. And now you can hit things above you. And I think that's all the interesting things I've done since the last devlog. Thanks a bunch for watching, and thanks to everyone who gave feedback and comments. And thank you for wishlisting YesterSol, I'm sure you did. Okay, see you in the next one. And don't forget to wishlist, 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 wishlist. Neat game.